Hello all, and welcome back to Time to Dice Character Creation, where we take your favorite fictional characters and make them in Pathfinder 2nd Edition. Last week, we made the Master of Alchemy himself, Edward Elric, so I think it's only right that we take a look at the other half of this dynamic duo, Alphonse. Alphonse went through all the same training as his brother, right down to the same ill-conceived plan to perform human transmutation to bring back his mom, which resulted in him losing his entire body. Luckily, his brother was there to bind his soul to a suit of armor, so that he is not gone for good. Alphonse has all the same abilities as of his brother, with the minor change that he trades off some of his brother's prodigy level alchemy with being undefeated in hand-to-hand combat. So without further ado, beware of spoilers, get your transmutation circles ready, and let's get started. While we may have been human before our accident, losing our body resulted in having a newer, better, cooler body. All that it cost us is that we can't eat, feel, and we have to spend every night reflecting on the mistakes we made that led us to this accursed state. Sounds like an automaton to me. That means 8 hit points, a boost to our con and strength, and we get automaton core, meaning that even though we're a construct, we can still regain hit points like normal, and still count as a living being for spells. And constructed body means we don't need to eat, drink, or sleep. Finally, our heritage, we can pick up the warrior heritage, bumping up our fist damage to D6s, and letting us ignore the penalty for making lethal attacks with our usually non-lethal fists. Despite going through all the same training as his brother, Edward is the only one granted the title of State Alchemist, so our background is still slightly different. The martial disciple background will let us reflect all the training we did under Izumi, giving us another boost to strength and constitution, while training in both athletics and warfare lore. And finally, we get the quick jump skill, allowing us to catapult ourselves forward with Earth Alchemy. First off, we won't be able to replicate Alphonse's indestructibility, but let's get as close as we can. Second, while Alphonse may not be able to replicate his brother's skill in alchemy, he still more than earns his title of alchemical prodigy. And finally, when all else fails, Alphonse can rely on his large form and inability to feel pain to go final destination, no items. For this build, we're going to take the fighter as our base class, but don't worry, we'll pick up some things later to replicate our more elemental abilities. As a fighter, we'll start out expert in perception. Alphonse has always been better at keeping a cool head than his brother, allowing him to pick up on the things that he needs to. We also get expert proficiency in both fortitude and reflex saves. Turns out, it's pretty easy to push through the pain when you can't feel said pain. For skills, we already got training in athletics from our background, so let's pick up acrobatics plus 3 plus our intelligence score. For our offenses, we're going to start out expert in all weapons, both martial and simple, letting us effectively wield any weapons that end up in our hands. And finally, we get trained in all armor, fitting as we ourselves are a suit of armor. Moving on to ability scores. First, we're going to invest in strength. Being a walking, talking suit of armor may have plenty of downsides, but it does definitely have the one big upside of augmenting our punches. Second, we have our constitution. Alphonse is very hard to damage, which Pathfinder's hit points don't easily replicate, but having a lot of hit points never really hurt anyone. Intelligence is next. The Elric brothers are one of the few who meet truth and not have their minds shattered in the process. And Dex is our final positive score. You're pretty nimble for a bag of bolts. For our skills, we have another feast or famine type build. We'll in this build legendary in acrobatics and athletics for our combat applications, and crafting for its alchemical benefits. We also get training in arcana and nature, mostly because I don't know which of these alchemy would be in the Pathfinder world. Diplomacy, because you're the more level-headed of the two brothers. Intimidation, because you can literally take off your head. Medicine, for the time spent with learning Alchemistry. Occultism, for the secrets we learn from truth. And society, to keep all the lore from the show straight in your head. With that out of the way, we move straight into level 1. For once, we actually don't have that much onboarding to do. We just get reactive strike, letting us swing at foes who would move through our threatened squares, or make a manipulate action in our reach. We also get an Ancestry feat and a class feat. For our class feat, combat assessment lets us make a strike against an opponent, testing how they react. If we hit the opponent, we can automatically make a recall knowledge check against that same opponent, getting a +2 if we crit. And for our Ancestry feat, the reinforced chassis turns our body into medium armor. We don't wear a suit of armor, we are a suit of armor. Moving into level 2, we can pick up the Kineticist dedication to use some of our more earthen-based powers. At this point, we get Channel Elements and Elemental Blast, dealing a d8 bludgeoning or piercing damage to any foe within 30 feet. This blast doesn't scale on its own, and it's significantly less accurate than our fist attacks, but it will serve as a decent ranged option until it falls off in a few levels. At level 3, we pick up Bravery, boosting our will saves to Expert and counting any successes we make against fear effects as critical successes instead. And if that wasn't enough, whenever you become Brightened, you reduce the value by 1. We also get a general feat at this level. We're going to pick up something important for this build. Adopted Ancestry will let us pick up Ancestry feats from skeleton lists in the future. I'm going to be honest, I have no lore justification for this, but the mechanical reasons will make sense later. At level 4, we can pick up the Archetype feat Through the Gate, letting us get the Tremor Impulse feat, forcing all foes in a 10-foot burst to take a basic Fortitude save or take 1d8 damage, and fall prone on a critical failure. The area is then difficult terrain until the end of our next turn. At level 6, we can pick up a weapon group to become Master in. This brawling weapon group lets us upgrade our fist attacks and lets us apply the critical specialization effects of our fist attacks. We also get an Ancestry feat at this level. The Collapse Skeleton feat lets us use our reaction whenever we are critically hit to collapse our body. This will turn the damage we take from the critical hit into normal damage instead, at the cost of making us flat-footed. Also, while we are collapsed, we can't act other than to take an action to stand. At level 6, we can pick up the Stepping Stones Kineticist feat. This lets us mold the earth to overcome obstacles, fitting Alphonse's resourcefulness and elemental connection perfectly. At level 7, we gain the Toughness feat, granting us additional hit points equal to our level, because who needs a Philosopher's Stone when you've got sheer grit? We also get Battlefield Surveyor, upgrading our Perception proficiency to Master and giving us a +2 to all perception checks for initiative. Finally, Weapon Specialization boosts our damage with all strikes, because if we're going to punch something, we might as well punch it really hard. Level 8 doesn't give us much, but we can pick up the Impulse feat, Ichneogenesis. This allows us to create any single object, like a sturdy wall, stone bench, or even a large bird cage, as long as it fits within a 5-foot cube. Unlike in the show, this object only lasts until we use Ichneogenesis again. However, if we spend an hour focusing on the object, we can make it permanent. At level 9, we pick up another Ancestry feat, Skeletal Resistance. This reflects Alphonse's resilience, granting us resistance to cold, electricity, fire, piercing, and slashing damage. It's not a lot of resistance, but it just might save you in a pinch, just like when Alphonse barely survived his battle against Scar. At level 9, we also gain the Battle Hardened feature, boosting our Fortitude proficiency to Master and counting our successes as critical successes, echoing Alphonse's ability to endure and excel under pressure. Additionally, the Sudden Leap feat allows us to perform impressive long or high jumps, and even make a strike mid-air, adding agility and combat versatility to our repertoire. Alphonse can move better than any suit of armor I know. Noted that's not a very high bar, but still. At level 10, we gain the ability to enter Disruptive Stance. While in this stance, our reactive strike can be triggered not only by the usual conditions, but also against anyone who makes a concentrate action. What's more, we disrupt concentrate actions on a hit rather than just a critical hit as usual, giving us enhanced control and interruption capabilities in combat. Alphonse is one of the few people who don't need to make a transmutation circle to use alchemy, so we might as well take advantage of that fact by attacking while other foes are just still doodling. At level 9, we can pick up the Die Hard general feat, making us a tad more difficult to kill by allowing us to reach dying 5 before succumbing. We also gain Armor Expertise and Fighter Expertise, boosting both our armor proficiency and class DC to Expert, though for Alphonse, mastering his armor and combat skills are essentially one and the same. Speaking of boosting our proficiency to Expert, at level 12 we pick up Kinetic Control, boosting our impulses to Expert. That's it. Not every level needs a justification. At level 13, Enlarged Chassis constantly applies the effect of Enlarge spell to us, boosting our reach and damage while making us constantly Clumsy 1. Additionally, we get the Weapon Legend feature, allowing our strikes with our fists to hit legendary proficiency, showcasing our unparalleled mastery in unarmed combat. At level 14, we gain the Weight of Stone Impulse feat, which enables us to create a 20-foot diameter cylinder of stone to knock foes out of the air. This powerful maneuver deals 88 bludgeoning damage at this level, making all targets make a basic reflex save to mitigate its effects. At level 15, we gain the Fleet feat, fueling our feet to fly 5 feet faster, fleetly navigating the field with finesse. Also at this level, the Determination feat allows us to shrug off adverse conditions like Frightened or Sickened. Greater Weapon Specialization boosts our damage even further, and Tempered Reflexes increases our reflex saves to Master, and counts our successes as critical successes, mirroring Alphonse's swift response to danger. At level 16, we can take the Elemental Overlap feat to gain access to the spell Jagged Berms, allowing us to create 6 cube-shaped walls of earth. These walls are spiked, so any creature foolish enough to wander into an adjacent square will end up as a pincushion, taking 78 piercing damage. When destroyed, the walls leave behind difficult terrain, and seeing our enemies regret every step they take, or try to take, around us. At 17th level, with greater augmentation, we master our new body, eliminating the clumsy condition from enlarged chassis. And with armor mastery, we enhance our armor proficiency to master. At level 18, we gain the spiked skin impulse, reflecting the alchemy we've learned from truth, allowing us to transmute ourselves to become tougher, granting resistance to physical damage and dealing 10 damage to anyone who attacks us with a non-reach melee weapon. At level 19, Canny Acumen boosts our will saves to master, and Versatile Legend gives us legendary proficiency with any weapon that we hold. At level 20, we gain the Rolling Mudslide feat, unleashing a 30-foot cone of earth that deals 5d8 bludgeoning damage. Foes must make a fortitude save against their class DC or be pushed back 5 feet, or 10 feet on a critical failure, and coated in mud, potentially falling prone unless they pass an acrobatics or a reflex save against their class DC. Now, let's talk skill feats. First off, we got the Kip Up feat, keeping us mobile even when our foes attempt to trip us. Next, we get the return of the anime jumping trio, Cloud Jump, Quick Jump, and Powerful Leap. These feats will keep us leaping around the battlefield like a true action hero. Combat Climber lets us scale walls without using our hands, basically taking an earth elevator. Hefty Hauler makes us use our bulky physique for some serious heavy lifting. And Titan Wrestler allows us to take on larger foes, even before a large chassis, to become a larger foe ourselves. And Slippery Prey helps us to escape grapples more easily, maybe by detaching an arm. And finally, we've got the crafting feats. Crafter's Appraisal and Improvised Tool, the essential skills for replicating alchemy. These feats allow us to understand what makes objects tick, and repair them without any tools. Full disclosure, we don't have as many crafting feats as I would like, but I wanted to truly focus on what makes Alphonse different than Edward for this build. Feel free to give up some of these athletic feats to take more crafting feats instead. But as for us, we're going to dive right into the pros and cons of this build. First off, when you take Skeletal Resistance, Collapse, and Spike Skin, and combine them with a naturally high hit dice and Constitution score, you have a nearly indestructible robot. Next, our offense is pack a punch, literally, with a d6 punch that boasts legendary proficiency and applies critical specialization, plus reach, enemies will be running in fear. And finally, if we don't want to be the main damage dealer in a fight, we can still dominate the battlefield with our earth impulses, shaping the terrain to suit our needs. But now, let's take a look at the cons. First and foremost, we get a variety of alchemical impulses, but our impulse DC never goes beyond expert, so expect foes to make their save often. Next, we have no ranged options at all except for our impulses, which, like we just said, are easy for enemies to overcome. And finally, while we have legendary proficiency with all weapons, if we truly want to play Alphonse, we're stuck using our fists. And let's be honest, that's probably the worst option we could pick. You may want to ask your brother if he can conjure you something nice. Thanks for watching this video. If you like this video, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Tell us what you want to see or how you would make our characters different. We try to respond to every comment. We don't always get to it, but we really do try. So thank you, and we'll see you next week.